gets exploded. Hook there on the Juju's with Thresh. Cannot defend her. I cannot believe.
It's gonna be the game.
I can let it
Mickey Well gets in behind him, trying to turn it his way. Wave onto everyone. Triple kill for Radier and Mickey Well, last man standing. It's a slugfest. Double kill, triple kill, double kill, quadra kill, double kill, triple kill. My God, that was amazing.
Hook's on, Big Swift has gone mega, but they killed us apart. Can't connect the chain, and Destiny, Hook is on, Swift is dead, Ray locks down Raze, Trippies gets that kill, and Spurs is stuck between the entire Wolfpack. Double kill for Fantix, they're running towards the Nexus.
Hello and welcome to the OPL Week 8, Day 1, of course, brought to you by Hungry Jacks. Getting a look at order right there. Rogue's just got a new haircut and going up against Legacy in our first series of the match. We've got a couple of banger games coming your way. I am Jake Spawn Tiberi. Joining me on the desk today is Tim Carbon-Wendell.
G'day.
Bryce has got 0 lungs left, so unfortunately not able to cast. I want to ask you quickly, how much does Choo Choo's weigh? Because
how much does he weigh?
First, shot in the intro, you rip Aaron out of his chair and toss him around like a ragdoll.
Yes, well, I was a bit stronger back then. I don't know. I'd pin Aaron at around 60 kilos, maybe 65.
He's not
after
a
a couple
man.
of Big Macs. No, he's not a big man. He's a slight build. But no, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here. Sort of a bit of an unfortunate circumstance that has led me to revive my casting career, but I'll take it.
Yeah, not for us. And I have been told, however, that you take a couple of days to prepare your comedic material for this. And this was a call-up last night at the last moment.
Yes.
So I want to know, are we going to see a more serious side of Carbon today? Or have you had enough time to put in some research behind these teams?
No, definitely. I was thrown in the kettle a bit this morning. I got the call saying Bryce's lung has exploded. Can you please come into cast? So here I am. There's a good chance that I'll flop, but fingers crossed not for the first game because my boys are playing.
I have faith in you. I also want to let everyone at home know that Bryce is actually okay. He's making jokes about it. He just has a little bit of a spontaneous pneumothorax, I've been told it is called.
Yep.
So he's actually okay. Best wishes to Bryce. Hopefully he gets better soon. As we bring up the schedule for today. Actually, no, it's not. It's the standings. Let's bring up the standing. It's going to be Chiefs Esports Club, top of the table, Direwolves in order. We'll be locked into that second and third position. Of course, Direwolves with their head-to-head after whooping Order's bum twice in a row. Avant Gaming is going to be fourth and Legacy fifth. Of course, Legacy not yet locked as Bombers will be taking to Summoner's Rift and Sin Gaming and Tectonic roll out that top 8. Tell me, how does Legacy miss? Do they miss? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's mathematically possible still. So if you're a Bombers fan, get excited. Your team can still make the gauntlet. But unfortunately for them, they're playing the Chiefs today. And they need to both 2-0 the Chiefs today, as well as us next week. So possible for them, but difficult. They also require us to go 0-2 today.
And that's what I was going to say. You control your own fate. And we'll be able to check that out after game number 1 as we bring up today's schedule. It is going to be Order taking on Legacy. As then Avant Gaming taking on Sin Gaming. Sunday, 2 p.m. It's going to be Tectonic taking on the Direwolves. If there is a more David and Goliath battle in the universe at the moment, I would like to hear your thoughts. Tweet at me, at SpawnLol. And then it's going to be the Chiefs taking on the Bombers, which is a must-win for the Bombers if they are going to maintain any hope of creating a gauntlet run later on this split.
I mean, it's doable in the sense that any team can win, but they're definitely up against it.
Yeah, it certainly are. That will be a very action-packed set. However, to get their thoughts on today's first game, it's going to be Order versus Legacy. Let's throw it over to Laura and Sharp.
Thank you very much, guys. Today, I'm joined once again by Sharp, coach for the Direwolves. Welcome back. It's great to have you on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's awesome to be here.
Last night, you guys had the Direwolves membership launch event. How was it?
Yeah, it was actually really awesome, to actually have that engagement between the fans and the players in the flesh rather than just being online. Yeah, it was really, really awesome. I mean, quite a surreal feeling, really, that there's a large amount of fans out there really supporting the Direwolves, backing the guys. So, yeah, shout out to the members out there, and, yeah, hope to see them again soon.
It looked like it was a really fun night, but as we take a look at the first match, it will be Order going up against Legacy, and I think it's important to note that these two teams haven't actually gone up against each other yet, but last week when we saw Order go up against the Direwolves, I think we saw a varying performance from them. We saw some clean games, we also saw some messy games, but all in all, we can say that Order are a very solid team. But on the other hand, Legacy are a team that throughout the split, we have seen they are consistently inconsistent, and I think taking a look at their 0-2 loss to the Chiefs last week, a lot of people will be quick to throw them out of this match. But Sharp, I don't think we necessarily can, because it was only 2 weeks ago they went up against your team. They took a game and they probably should have taken a series. So I'd love to grab your thoughts on this, considering you went up against both Order and Legacy so recently.
Yeah, even talking to Carbon before, I think Legacy are a team that has extremely high highs. When they're at their best, I think they can rival pretty much every team in the league. But I think conversely, they also have some quite low lows. I think that they have been failing to transition their early leads, which has led them to have some disappointing losses. So I think today you'll expect to see, I guess, if they can pull out some of their best performances, if you can see performances from the likes of Sybil and Claire really stepping up, I think they could potentially take some games off of Order.
And what do you think about Order? You only went up against them last week, and they seem to have improved since the last time they went up against you earlier on in the split.
Yeah, so I think Order are a very well-rounded team. I don't think they have any, I guess, obvious flaws in their gameplay. I think are strong across the board. I think that, again, they're a very difficult opponent to draft against as well as versus in-game. So I think that you'll expect to see a strong performance coming out of Order, especially since towards the later stages of the split, teams like Legacy and Order both tend to step it up quite a bit. So I guess you'll see I'm expecting to see a high-quality series from both squads. So I think it'll be a really good series.
All of that in mind, Sharp, who are you going to give this series to?
I'm actually going to say 2-1 Order.
I was going to say 2-1 Order as well. But remember, guys, if you would like to make your own tips at home, head on over to opltips.com.au, where we have those Hungry Jacks vouchers up for grabs. We have $25, $50 and $100 vouchers available, as well as XP boost and RP prizes. More information on the competition and how you can enter can be found over at the website at opltips.com.au. And as always, Sharp will be answering your questions later on, so if there's anything you'd like to ask the Direwolves coach and Maokai main, even though I've been told that you're not a Maokai main anymore.
I can't drop that. No one's letting me drop my Maokai main days. Seriously, I'm a mid laner now. You've seen me in solo under Coach Curtis playing a bit of mid lane, so I'd watch out there. More for the champs like Oriana and Victor, not so much the Maokai anymore.
We'll send your questions over to us on Facebook or Twitter using the hashtag #LikeNoOther. And if your question is answered, you will win yourself a mystery skin, which sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Thank you for your thoughts on this series, Sharp. But to get it underway, let's hand it back over to Jake and Carbon.
Thanks so much. Always good to hear from Sharp. Want to get your quick thoughts. Your fish shoes or Sharp's shiny boots? Who has better shoes?
Oh, I mean, you can't. It's not really a fair comparison on Curtis. I mean,
you just get lost from the start.
No, you can't compete with fish shoes. So I'm gonna have to give it definitely to the fish shoes. I don't know. He rates the Victor and the Oriana.
Also a good Cassio Xerath player.
Yeah, I definitely think he's better on the Cassio and the Xerath, but you know, it's whatever. It's just solo queue.
Yeah, it certainly is. However, we do have to get into the first matchup. It's going to be Order taking on Legacy. And before we get into this game, full disclaimer: I am the general manager of Order. Tim is the head of esports for Legacy. So this will be a very interesting battle on multiple fronts, I feel like, today. But before we get into the game itself, I do want to ask you about Legacy's mid to late game struggles, because I have a stat here. Your early game is terrific. You've been able to generate significant gold leads in 8 games so far this split. You, however, have dropped 37.5% of them.
I mean, not me personally.
Your team.
If it was me, we would probably won a couple more.
All right, cool. So what is it? Is it the B word? Is it the big bad Baron?
Look,
what is
man, if you play League, you know Baron is spooky. It's just a spooky thing. It's like you're winning and everyone feels good, and especially when you're playing against a good team like Chiefs or Direwolves, and you sort of think like, holy moly, like we might actually win a game versus a really good team. Like we have a gold lead. Like let's set up Baron, guys. And when it's time to actually execute on it, everyone just gets a bit nervous. You get sweaty hands on the keyboards, and sometimes just goes a bit pear-shaped.
Yeah, it certainly does. Sometimes your jungler just jumps out of the pit and tries to take a team.
Sometimes he
Shout
does.
out to Spooks. However, I also want to ask you about what your thoughts are on Order, because from all extents look like a very proactive team. When they have a gold lead, they're able to go forward with it. Last week, we saw them down 11,000 gold, still winning team fights. Are they a calculated proactive team, or do they just head ram a little bit?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't call them head rammers. I think just on your point about being like 11k cold down, I know for myself when I played, and I think I think Spooks and Swift are a bit the same. When we're losing, we like to lose quick. We don't like to just get bled out for 40 minutes. We like to, you know, make a Hail Mary play and try and get ourselves back in the game. And I feel like they do the same thing. So it doesn't surprise me at all to see them trying to make big plays from a big goal deficit. Tally, I know, on the other hand, absolutely hates that. He hates making the Hail Mary plays. He used to always show me VODs of like SKT games where they're like 10k goal down and they just ride it out till 50 minutes and somehow they win. And he used to be like, see, Tim, like, we can win. I'd be like, shut up, James. I don't care. I'm still engaging next time.
If you are SKT, you can win from a 10,000 goal deficit. I believe it as well. However, let's get straight into the lineups. On the blue side of Summoner's Rift, it is going to be Order. Tally in the top lane. Spooks is their jungler. Swiffer, their captain and mid laner. FBI and Rogue are their AD carry and support. And Choo Choo's, one of your good mates, is their coach. Of course, going up against Legacy. Mimic in the top lane. Sybil is their jungler. Claire, their superstar mid laner from Melbourne. Raiden Decoy, their AD carry and support. And Soul Strike is going to be the coach.
But he's from Melbourne?
Yeah, go on. You're from Melbourne.
Raid's from Melbourne.
Is Raid from Melbourne as well?
He is.
So many good Melbourne players.
Agreed.
What is it about Melbourne that is just so terrific?
I don't know. It just breeds really great people.
Certainly does. I do want to touch onto Tally going up against his former team. You guys have brought in Mimic now. Mimic seems, by all extents and purposes, a very well-rounded player.
I think he is. I mean, he's definitely the best top that I think I've worked with. Sorry, James. He just seems to tick all the boxes. He's just got the fundamentals down pat. His TP usage looks great. He's a good team fighter. He's good at laning. He can play tanks and carries. He really just, I think, is the complete top laner. For my money, I think he's the best top laner in the OPL, despite not being on one of those top 3 teams. I think he's just. I think he's had a great split. I mean, I obviously have the benefit of being able to watch him in scrims as well. But I just think he's just a fantastic player, and I think it's only a matter of time before he really starts to shine.
And I think that the thing that has impressed me about Mimic is the 1%ers. I thought we were going to get a flashy Korean carry player, but what I saw instead is a champion that is willing to back off towers if he can die, but also willing to stay at turrets if he thinks he can go for that 1v2 play. I think that his wave control, his CSing, he's always one of those players that when you look at his CSD numbers, not great, but that's because he forces people back. When you look at him compared to his opponent, always just edging them out, always getting these small advantages.
Agree.
And that, to me, is very impressive as we are into Champion Select. It is going to be Camille, Azir, and Gangplank on a blue side ban from Order. Skarner, Tristana, and waiting on Legacy's third ban.
Do you reckon Choo Choo's is maybe banning Tally's GP?
Would you ban Tally's GP?
I used to ban Tally's GP. I hate playing with GP.
Do you know this split Tally has a 100% win rate?
No, he always wins on Jet, but that only makes it worse. It's not that the champion is bad. I just hate the experience of playing with him. It's just like, I got to spend the next 40 minutes AFK so you can get your 6 items in 1v9. Like, oh, that must be so fun for you. Like, meanwhile, I'm playing bloody Sejuani doing nothing.
Meanwhile, it was Xayah taken away by Legacy and first pick Galio from Order. We were talking about how much we hate Superman earlier this morning. Does that extend to Galio?
Bloody Sybil's flaming me. So far he's hovered Riven, Ivan, and Nunu. That's not cool.
However, does lock in Sejuani. So Sejuani Varus, that's already a fantastic core. Both have very good late game scaling as well as, you know, good utility through the CC.
Yeah, pretty genius drafting so far from the red side. Let's look at Order though. Galio first pick is interesting. I mean, I have seen Swiffer play the Galio to a pretty high level, and I think he's definitely comfortable on that champion. But do you think it's worth first picking away?
I certainly think that Galio right now is one of those champions that you can beat in lane, but can you beat him hard enough to kind of stop the map presence, I think is a big thing. And what we've seen out of Swiffer this split is he's gone from being, you know, the Fizz, Zed, Cassidy player that we used to see in 2014 to trying to go back to more of the TF, Talia roots, and I think Galio fits that role nicely.
Yeah. Do you think it's worth banning Game 2 maybe?
For you guys? I know that. I stalk player solo queue. He's actually one of my favorite players to watch. I know that he's played a little bit of Galio himself.
Yeah, he's a good player to watch. He's fun to watch just like physically as well. If you just stand behind his computer, the way it's just not, some players are just nice to watch them use like a keyboard. Just the way they micro is just like pleasant. And I think he's one of those players. And he locks in the Corki, so going to take one of the counter picks. Outscales Galio by a long margin, I think is fair to say. Yep. But doesn't really do so hot in lane. Galio still gets priority for a long time just because of his wave clear. I mean, there isn't really a ton of kill pressure 1v1, but Galio just clears the wave so quickly with his Q, his passive, and the Justice Punch. So it's sort of it's a counter pick, but not really a counter pick. See how it works out there. Legacy going to ban away Olaf. Champion that we've seen rise in popularity in Korea especially. I think Score in the KT versus SKT series took it first pick and first rotation when he had the chance. What are your thoughts on the Mad Viking in the jungle? I think people have just sort of discovered that the synergy with Predator is really, really strong. I mean, he just sprints into your lane. First ability does bonus damage, so if he tags you with that first axe, it's just going to chunk you for 2 bars, and then you're slowed. He's got the move speed. It's just really difficult to get away from.
Also allows you to take flash, which is one of his old weaknesses.
Yeah,
If you get caught out in River
Yep.
or something like that, it was just a free kill.
Yep.
Now, due to Predator, he takes flash, he can get
Instead
out
of
of
the
those
ghost.
sticky situations.
Absolutely.
Very nice. And they've also hit Spooks again with a Kha'Zix. And Mimic, for another time, he plays top laners here. Let's just say he's got 5 bans pegged at him. One of the most banned players, I think, in the OPL. Decoy, however, does still get Braum, his best champion, I would say, by a fair margin.
Yep. Lucio loves the Braum. So we see a bit of a disco. I think that's Tally's keyboard. Let me see. Oh, how did I know?
I think you played with him for a couple of years.
Yeah. So, Braum is a big favourite of Lucio's. Soul Strikes, he's been picking it for years. Just gives you so much CC in the early and mid-game. Team fighting is so good, especially river skirmishing.
Yep.
If you get into it, even an even skirmish in the river, Braum can often he just makes it so easy. You just get a tag and everyone knows who to focus. It sort of makes shot calling a bit easier. It's like normally you have to call a target like, oh, Corky, Corky, Corky. But as soon as everyone sees a Braum passive tag someone, they all immediately target that person and just makes synergy that little bit easier.
Yeah, it certainly does. Braum also unique in the fact that he is a defensive support, but when played well, can be incredibly proactive, especially in laning phase, launching himself off creeps and the like. It's going to be Alistair and Zach to round out the order composition, and immediately Mimic takes on a champion he's shown great success. I actually think he was the first player that played Ornn correctly, you know, with the Biscuit build, with the ability to bully with Ignite early and, you know, just use that passive fantastically. What are your thoughts on the 2 drafts? Who won out here?
Well, I don't think anyone necessarily won. I think both drafts are quite strong. I think that Order obviously have a lot of team fighting, a lot of strong wombo combo. They got Ali, Galio for the bot lane dive, as well as Zach. They're going to have Gnar side lane pressure. He also has the Mega Gnar team fight. So they just have a lot of AoE CC. And I think if they're able to access mid-game team fights the way they want to, I think their draft is certainly extremely strong. However, I think Legacy's draft is good. I think both their solo lanes are going to have good lane phases, despite being melee versus range. Ornn does have a very good matchup into Gnar, especially being able to take that Ignite. I think Sejuani is definitely a stronger jungler than Zach. So I think in terms of the individual matchups, probably the Legacy draft is a bit stronger, but if I almost call them Chiefs, if Order can execute on their team fight comp, I think they're definitely going to have an advantage in that early mid-game.
And it's something that I've talked about a lot, but what are your thoughts on these teams, especially within Oceania, just getting more go buttons? Because I look at teams like Tectonic and like Sin sometimes, and they put a lot of it on, you know, their jungle position, like Juice has to engage, or Tilting is playing something like Shen, and he has to kind of makeshift engage. Whereas both of these team comps have like Sejuani ultimate, Ornn ulti, both from long range, Galio plus Alistair, both have very easy access to team fights. Do you think that that's just something that suits Oceania as a region?
Potentially. For me, I take a lot from the fighting game community, FGC. For me, the more options a character has or a champion has, the better it is. So if you have a team comp with a ton of options, things like scaling, engage, disengage, split push, team fight, like if you can tick all these boxes, your comp is just going to be better because in-game, you're going to be able to do more things. If you pick, I think a lot of what OS teams do is they pick a certain comp or a certain style, and they really only give themselves a few windows to succeed. And while that can sometimes be better because there's less room to make mistakes, I feel like in the long run, that's going to hurt your team more than it's going to help.
Yeah, well, both of these teams incredibly flexible, and to hear more about the draft coming out of Order, let's throw it over to Laura and Choo Choo's.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm standing here alongside Choo Choo's. Now, last week you had a big series against the Direwolves, but ultimately fell short. What were you and the team able to learn from that series?
Oh, we were very upset the way we lost the series. It looked quite convincing coming out of Game 1. Game 2 was just well played, like a good game, but Game 3 was very upsetting. It was definitely, especially since the guys have to go back to Melbourne, it was on their minds for quite a long time. But we took things away from it and we've improved.
Well, today you're up against Legacy, and considering they've been a team that have had very varying performances throughout the split, has it been difficult at all preparing for them?
No, not really. Legacy tend to play a very similar composition week to week. It's just they sometimes play well, they sometimes don't. But we do respect them a lot as a team. Like we know what they're capable of. They've got some good players, especially Mimic and Claire. So we've prepared well, and yeah, we respect them.
The casters were highlighting the top lane matchup for this series, and taking a look at both teams' compositions. How do you think Tally will go into Mimic today?
Tally's been playing really well this week. We've got a draft that we're very comfortable on, a matchup that he's very good on. So I think James should have no issue.
Well, best of luck with the game, and thanks for talking to us, Choo-Choos.
Thanks.
That is it's an interesting point that he raises, you know, like when Order loses or Bombers, any of those Melbourne teams, that's a long flight home.
Certainly is. I think it's kind of when traditional sports meets esports, because traditional sports have it as well. And it kind of shortens the turnaround, because what you normally are able to do is if you have a bad game, you can jump straight back into solo queue or go home and do something and kind of reset your mind. Whereas they're held in limbo almost for at least 3 hours most of the time. Which can play on the team. It's something we do in response a lot, is, you know, mindfulness and things like that. Direwolves as an organization have talked a lot about it. I know that you were a pretty relaxed person. You used to kick your shoes off when you played the game and try and get yourself in your happy place.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I eventually had to let go because they said no shoes off in the studio. But I played barefoot for a long time, and then I had to eventually I compromised. We'll call it that, and I started wearing socks. Then I had to double compromise and put actual shoes on.
Ugg boots, are they shoes?
Let's talk about the game as a gank is
bit of a
coming
gank in mid lane, yeah. Swiffer just be able to back away from that one. You can see Claire already pushing in. Has gone a cull start. I like the cheeky aggression coming out of him. Doesn't think the kill potential from Swiffer is all that high, so we'll just look to farm out this lane and scale into the late game.
Okay, so interesting here. They've got vision of Sybil taking the Krugs, but Spooks opts into not cancelling his base and just going home anyway. I wonder what his plan is, because he knows that Sybil still needs to base. He knows he has a little bit of a tempo lead, and there's going to be a window here for Spooks to do something. Yeah,
so Spooks likes to call this his free time around Summoner's Rift. This is when he just asks his lane, you know, where can I go? Lots of junglers kind of do that. The other thing that is quite nice at the moment, he's gone back and picked up a blue smite. The combat smite helps at this stage of the game, whereas you would have a couple of wards in the past. Big heavy trade in the top lane. Mimic winning out on that one quite substantially. You see Tally, however, has used 2 of his potions already, but Mimic will have those biscuits coming in quite soon. Spooks takes a visit to the mid lane, finds nothing.
Yeah, well, he walked over that Wraith ward in his own jungle, so Legacy know that he's in the river somewhere, but they don't know exactly where. So you can see that Claire is sort of hovering on the top side of the lane. Level 4 Zac, his jump is not that big yet. I was going to say, if Spooks completes that teleport, he's come back out of base, pretty much done nothing, and he's going to go straight back.
Yeah, see whether that is what he does. Instead, looks like he's just going to go to a Raptor camp. Will be spotted out on a ward again. Zombie ward. Strong.
So OP. So OP. I don't think... well, I mean, I don't know. Lots of people do talk about it, I suppose. I was going to say people don't talk about it enough, but Zombie ward is actually so unbelievably strong. Although, it makes me wonder why Sibol is in in that tree on his runes, in the second tree. What do you think the other one is? The charge?
Yeah, potentially Relentless Hunter.
No,
what is that what it's called?
Relentless Hunter is the move speed one.
So it's whatever the one that gives you the...
buff is the Q as well.
Very nicely done there from Claire. You can see Swiffer finally gets some priority on that lane. Has used his teleport. Claire uses his in response. And this has been quite a respectful early game, I think, out of all teams. Mimic's even gone from an early shop, something that we don't normally see out of Mimic. He likes to stick around in lane for extended periods of time.
Yeah, not much happening. Both sides seem relatively happy to farm. CS is pretty even across the board. I will say that Sibol does have a 1 camp advantage just because Spooks opted into not taking those Krugs, sorry. But whether that actually results in anything is yet to be seen.
Should give him an earlier level 6, and both of these junglers have pretty potent level 6 ganks. Sejuani especially, given the non-committal nature of the ultimate, means you can peg one out there. If it hits, you go in. If it doesn't, who cares?
And one thing I do want to talk about a little bit, which I know doesn't get spoken about much, is the fact that blue side jungle will almost always hit 6 before red side jungle. And the reason for that is that blue side jungle usually starts red, and then they will take their second rotation buff, whereas red side jungle will usually start blue and have to give away their buff. So you can almost guarantee that blue side should get, as we see, a bit of an all-in here.
Yeah, big all-in here, actually. Spooks is going to leap in. Raid has to burn his flash. Spooks slashes after him, gets first blood. Decoy has stuck around to try and help out of his support, and this might have been a bad move. You can see Rogue starting to charge up the bells. He will flash away first blood for Order.
Not sure what happened there, but Raid found himself between a rock and a hard place, and that flash pole made him pay.
Yeah, certainly did. Potentially just contesting CS. Varus plus Braum is such a nice lane. Goes back, picks himself up a recurve bow, plus some makings of the Ninja Tabby. Something I want to talk about quickly is, back in the day, if you didn't get your BF shop on 80 carries at this stage of the game, you get early gank, you're boned. However, both Ezreal and Varus have like very like kind of, you know, variety bucket kind of build. You can pick up whatever you want.
I would just call it having a nice build path.
Yep.
So, you know, most AD carries are like that nowadays. There are very few pure like IE builders.
Yep.
I mean, Caitlyn is one, but I couldn't really, call another one.
Yep.
We see all in from Mimic.
Mimic actually
Does
going
have
for
the
it.
ignite.
Hits it. Goes for the ignite as well.
Awesome.
Gets the flash out of Tally. However, takes 2 turret shots. See whether Tally now sticks around or if Mimic respects it and recalls.
He's afraid of the jungler, but Red did just spawn. So the jungle read incorrect there. They will spot him on the ward here, but Sybil's made his top laner back off the wave when he probably didn't need to.
Yeah, exactly right. That's where it comes in key. Communicating to your lanes as the jungler, where Spooks is most likely to be and being able to take those plays, because with Flash and Brittle on Tally, probably could have picked up the kill there, you would think.
Potentially. I mean, I don't think he was going to dive either way. I think it's just more about the wave control.
Yep.
Both junglers level 6 now. Onus is sort of on Sybil to get something done. He had the XP advantage. Spooks wasted a bit of tempo on the gank as well, but getting the kill means that gets a little bit of XP back. So got to see what the pig does.
All right, now talk to me about why people go Red Smite on Sejuani. Is it just, you know, dueling potential? Is it the damage reduction? What do you like about it?
I would say the Red Smite, just in general, is better than Blue Smite. Okay. The damage reduction is huge, especially for tanks. If you're taking 15% less damage as a tank, like, you're just going to be able to live for so much longer. And also, the thing with Sejuani is she's an auto-attack based champion. Yep. Zac, most tanks are ability-based, like Maokai, Zac. All these champions require abilities to do damage. Sejuani's is based off her passive on her E and her W, which is, it's not an auto-attack, but it's auto-attack reset anyway. Yeah. So the Red Smite, you just get so many procs of it. And she actually does, because her abilities are based on percentage health, she actually does a lot of damage.
She certainly does. She's one of the better duelists. Actually going to face check, as you mentioned. That's a good headbutt away. Pulv as into the little bit of a escape. See whether Rogue can get out as well. Has popped that ultimate. Will get stunned up. However, Legacy disengaged. TP was cancelled.
Good to say. Not sure about that disengage as Spooks makes the press
from Mimic. However, got caught on a minion. Gets Nard back into the wall. Will be stunned up. Uses that ultimate. However, will be kidnapped and therefore cannot use the ram. See Galio also looking to join this fray. Mimic gets knocked up. Do they give the kill over to Swiffer? Yes, they do.
Disappointing there from Legacy as the owner. I mean, they just lost both sides of the map, really. 2v3 in the bottom lane, and they get spooked by a TP, and then they, at the same time, they make a gank work in the top lane, and it's a race for first blood tower as Corki comes out.
However, now Corki cheating into the brush, as you said, does show that he's going back now. Headbutt Pulv, and they actually leap forward. FBI and Rogue playing this one very aggressively. Decoy will take some damage. That might mean bottom lane turret survives.
Staunched off the tower by no flash, no ult Alistar.
Yep.
Got to think that Legacy, they need to make something happen here because they can't just keep seeding objectives.
And that was actually a very strange play coming out of bottom lane, I will say, because they didn't have a tri-brush ward and there was nothing in river, so they were gambling that because Claire hadn't shown, he'd gone back mid.
Yep.
Where in reality, there could have been a Corki over the wall that just goes over, absolutely blows them off, walks away with a double kill and first turret. So I would say this is an example of when I'm like, is Order a genius team, or are they just blatantly disrespectful in terms of where the opponents can be?
I mean, disrespect is not necessarily like a bad thing in the traditional sense of being disrespectful.
Yep.
The onus is on the enemy team to punish you for doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
If you can do the wrong thing and get away with it, it's not really the wrong thing, is it?
Yep.
And I think that's definitely what, especially the bot lane of Order, they do this a lot. They really push their limits, and they sort of put the ball in the opposition's court, and they say, look, we're going to do this, and you have to outplay us. Like, you have to punish us. And so many teams in the OPL, they either get spooked by that because they think, oh, these two players are so good, like, they must know something that we don't, or they're just not confident enough in their own ability, and they let them get away with it.
I call it the extra button effect. For some reason, some players think other players just have an extra button.
Yep.
Because they look at a champion and they would say, let's use FBI as Ezreal. I'm not saying this is the case, but he'll be like, he's going to dive me in this situation, where then they would play against, you know, another Ezreal, and they're like, well, I'm going to stay. And everyone on Ezreal can technically do the same thing. It's just that player perception coming in.
You're not playing the player, you're playing the champion.
Yep.
Which is something, can't remember who said that. I think it was Bryce. I think it was Ejim, actually. That you don't play the player, you should be playing the champion.
Yep.
Ezreal can only do a certain number of things. Your champion does a certain number of things, and in most scenarios, you should know, you know, what the maximum capability is of each champ.
Especially in laning phase, roll to roll. It's a little bit different when a Zed flies out of mid lane and comes and kills your bottom lane. You're like, wow, that was way more damage than I expected. But when it's, you know, Raid versus FBI, you should expect that both of these players are very good at both Varus and Ezreal and have coverage of it. As we check in with the game, Swiffer goes forward aggressively. Nice Valk from Claire. Won't really cost him because of the blue buff. Gold lead right now, about 1,000 in Order's favor.
Yep, which is sort of par for the course. I mean, I think with these team comps, we were going to see, we alluded to it in the Champion Select, like we are going to see some wombo combos and a lot of roaming from the Galio, and they've got a lot of long range engage. So Legacy are going to have to play very suspicious, very careful in order to not get caught by all of it. Spooks is here for the counter gank, but he's channeling his base.
He has just cancelled a couple of times. I think that he's going to count out Sybil's recall now. Is that something that you like to do?
Though.
I think it was warded as he walked in.
Okay.
And you can see Spook's bottom side jungle is up and available, so we'll just go take that instead. Boots to a Kindle gem right now, so a little bit of movement speed advantage for Spooks and some health advantage for Sybil. Across the rest of the lanes and Mimics gone towards actually a Balmy Cinder, something we haven't seen in a long time in top lane.
Yeah, it just gives you a little bit more pressure. You push a bit quicker. I think it's... Well, I mean, I'm not a top laner. I imagine it's decent versus Gnar. You know, he wants to make sure that he can punish Gnar for leaving lane. We did see him force him out earlier. We haven't really had much insight into how top lane is going since then. But I imagine he just wants that little bit quicker push.
For sure. I think one thing against ranged champions that I always valued when I played a bit of top lane was if you make them play against the lane, they stop hitting you. So the quicker you push the creeps, that's why things like Nautilus and Maokai were good against them. You just sit there, put your shield on, start smacking the lane. And then eventually they have to stop hitting you and hit the creeps, and it gives you that ability to potentially go for a mid lane roam like Mimic has done here.
Spooks is on a ward. See whether or not Sybil comes in for the counter. He is at Wraiths.
The Spooks will just lead. Topside jungle now up and available. So good pathing from both junglers, I would say, this game. Sybil has used it to try and get, you know, things like Scuttle Crab and good vision. Spooks has made it work with a couple of ganks so far. Sybil's team does want to scale, however.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're fans of either side, you're pretty happy with how this game is going, to be honest. I mean, Order have utilized their comp. They have got a small advantage, and they'll be looking for the first big dragon fight or a Rift Herald contest or something like that. Whereas Legacy, they should just be content with scaling. I mean, they have the Corki, he started Cull, they have Varus. As soon as he gets that Rage Blade, especially Wit's End, a lot of magic damage for sure on this Order comp. So, you know, Legacy is sort of waiting for 2 item spikes. So they're happy where they are, but Order at the same time should be pretty happy with where they are. They're just waiting for the next big team fight.
The one thing I will say is Legacy's comp on Reflection is actually loaded with magic damage. Varus is about a 60-40 or, you know, maybe 65-35 champ. Does a lot of physical damage, but also a lot of magic damage. Things like the Abyssal Mask and potentially Adaptive Helm against Corki as well as Varus will actually protect Order a little bit towards the latter stages of this game.
But Varus is fantastic against Order's comp at the same time. Like, both of these comps, it's very easy to build defensive against them. Because you look at Order, it's almost all magic damage. Ezreal also has like I mean, it's not as significant as Varus, but it's still a decent split. Galio is a sort of low damage AP champion. Zac is AP. So as soon as that Wit's End gets finished, it's going to be very difficult for them to kill Varus without Ezreal tagging with Qs.
Absolutely agree. There was a stage in the game where we saw potentially Galio being a burst mage a little bit, as actually Order just drop Herald.
Yeah, Galio's moving into the top side jungle. They're trying to just force the issue here. I mean, this tower's taking a bit of damage. This is the Gnar matchup, I suppose. Nice or not, but it's not going to be enough.
Certainly isn't. That's going to be solo turret gold over to Tally. We heard Choo Choo say he's actually had a good week in scrims. Potentially this is Order giving a little bit more resources to their top laner, trying to help him out in what is a good matchup for him right now.
Gnar TP is up, and Gnar, James is going to go back to base, Tally that is, so we'll see whether or not...
Over the wall they go. That's going to be Rogue getting tagged up with an ultimate as well, probably saving FBI's life, and you can see they will just successfully disengage.
Maybe a bit trigger happy on the ultimate there, but they're trying to make something happen on the bottom side. I mean, they know that top tower has fallen, and while they were doing Dragon, Legacy a bit reactive. Spooks, he took the Rift Herald first, and Legacy,
FBI again goes forward. This time gets ulti. Gonna pop Rogue's ult as well. Teleport's coming in. That will be matched right now by Mimic. Headbutt pole. Spook's actually gonna jump into the play right now, and that is everyone from Order down in this bottom lane. Decoy will fall to Tally. Mimic and Claire stay at home.
Yeah, I mean, they must have called. to cancel a TP because they thought they could still live.
Yep.
But that Galio ult's just so strong.
Certainly is. One thing people forget a lot about Galio ult is the damage reduction that it gives you as well. It's not just the big, you know, Superman sky punch. It's the fact that you take significantly less damage as it's going on. Order will look to break a second turret here. Mimic putting in some work top lane.
Yeah, so they do get the waves in, which is going to be a little bit of farm for the Legacy side, but really it's starting to look a bit dire. 3k gold now, the lead.
Sybil coming back as well. Actually, we'll go forward.
not
Arctic
aware that
Assault.
Zach
Spooks
is
is still
behind
here. However, will be able to get himself out of dodge. That is going to be Claire coming down bottom lane. However, he's by himself. Has package. Will be able to blow up FBI. No. Good heal comes across, and now Claire stuck between a rock and a hard place. Bolts into a wall, and that means that Tally will be able to catch up here. Claire should fall down. Swift has used his teleport to get into the bottom lane. Misplay out of Legacy's mid laner.
Yes, very nice heal there from FBI. The package went to cut him off, but Sybil couldn't follow up. I think his Sejuani ult was still on cooldown.
Yep.
So wasn't able to back him up there. Bit of a solo play from the mid laner, maybe feeling the heat a little bit, but didn't work out.
Yeah, it's one of those times where if you are one of the star players and your team's starting to fall behind in the game, you feel it's your responsibility to be the person to take it on. Sometimes it works, makes you look like a star. That's why we talk about Claire a lot. Today, unfortunately, not going his favour.
No, it wasn't to be the case there. We've got 2 items now on Ezreal, so he's quite accelerated. Black Cleaver finished for Nah. He's also got the Spectral Shroud, so Orden will be basically a non-factor in the side lane for the next 5 minutes. So Order in a very strong position right now.
And you're all a vocal member when you're a team. If you're on Legacy's comp right now, what are you telling them? Like, what is your communications as a jungler? What are you trying to work towards?
Just hold on to your pants, really. Just hold on. They still have a really strong comp. Like I said, that 2-item spike with the IE and the Wit's End is still going to be extremely strong. They do have Braum, Sedge, and Orns. They have a very beefy front line. If they can survive the burst that comes out of the CC with the Galio ult and the Zac, you know, team fights look
trouble
really
here.
good.
Swift has somehow got behind him.
No
Taunt
flash.
will come up. No flash. Knock up into the rubber arms, into potentially a kill right here. You can see they leave it for Swiffer again. And Spooks putting on a jungling clinic.
Yep, just no control at the moment for Legacy on either side of the map. Pretty much as soon as Order went bot, they control bot river, then they go top, they control top river, now pushing some wards into the jungle, really tightening the screws in.
So it will be a 5,000 gold lead at about 20 minutes in. Dragon and Rift Herald were contested, now moving into this mid lane turret. You can see Spook standing on a ward, obviously just zoning away from the turret. That will be all 3 outer turrets down. And Order now potentially can look to set up things like the Baron, potentially look towards the next Dragon.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they could do Baron. I suppose they are a very tanky team. They don't have that much damage, but yeah, I think for Order, the game now is just maintain this pressure, keep the vision up. If anyone goes to farm the side lane, like we just saw with Claire, you just go for the Galio ult, try and collapse. Tally's going to have pressure. I think his next buy, he's got a Giant spell. What do you think that Giant spell is?
I actually think that Tally feels like this game, even though he's ahead, he has to team fight. Because if you let Ornn get into it, and we've seen this so many times, if you go like Frozen Mallet, like Phantom Dancer, Ornn's like, okay, peace out. You can have 2 turrets.
Good luck.
I'll go take a 4-person team fight and a Baron buff and win the game for my team. And I actually think that's why in Oath, the Nah counter matchup wasn't working out all that well because people were playing it to the extreme. Whereas it looks like Tally is like, okay, he's an Ornn. I'm going to have to team fight at some point because otherwise he's just going to do it better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing with Ornn was no one really understood his damage that well when he first came out. Then especially when people started taking Ignite, I feel like there was just a lot of Nahs that got caught off guard by that Ignite. I don't know what the ability is called.
Slap.
Yeah, just that he has so much damage.
Ooh, and this is interesting. They actually give FBI the blue buff on Ezreal.
Well, I did hear, I have heard he's a bit of a hog. He's a bit of a give me everything 80 carry, which is fine. If you can do that, and you carry, as far as I'm concerned, take whatever you want. You know what I mean? I'll build Redemption on Lee Sin. You can have all my buffs. Just carry me.
Yeah.
But it's if he dies, I think there'll be a very unhappy mid laner.
Are you a best.gg player? Do you
PP farmer? Hell yeah. I was a PP farmer before PP was like a thing that everyone spoke about. I remember in 2016 was when Best GG started doing OPL. And yeah, every week I would check. Every week I would check my PP.
So FBI is also a fan. He has the largest PP in the league.
A huge PP?
Yeah, and his damage per minute is also like 990.
He's a good player.
Which is very high, as we see Rogue potentially caught out. However, Galio again, as well as Zach, going to fly into the back line. That's a kidnap onto Decoy, and for a tanky support, he gets blown up. Huge ultimate coming out of Mimic. However, the damage still not there, as those 2 items are not completed. And Tally looking for a flank. FBI still going forward. Mimic dashes into the lane and will look to corral Tally out, but potentially with the support dead, they can set their eyes potentially towards a Baron. No, they will just look for the waves.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Legacy go, that was a decent opportunity for a team fight there. I mean, most of the CC missed or they flashed out. They were focusing both Sibol and Decoy, the tanks. So, I mean, the backline just isn't doing damage right now.
And there's a little blue ward in the back of the pit that apparently Order has not yet spotted. So Legacy very aware that they're not on that. They do the right thing. They just said, okay, they're wasting time in brushes. Let's go get some side lane farm for our carries.
Yep. But yeah, just want to touch on that team fight again. Yep. Sibol still holding on to his ult. Decoy didn't get the opportunity to use his ult. You got to think, from my perspective, that looked like, to be honest, probably one of the better opportunities they had to team fight. Just couldn't execute.
Yeah, it certainly did. It was a huge ultimate coming out of Mimic. And it looked like Raid was just going to be able to fire at the back line uncontested. If that's something like a Hurricane or even a Wit's End at this stage of the game, would have been able to light up the front line, but they're just not at the break point, and they didn't get the CC necessary to win the arms race.
Exactly. Because you got to think that next time, you know, if that Galio ult does hit, or if Zach Kidnap hits someone other than just the support, that could very easily be the Baron.
Absolutely. As we see, Legacy, they do a good job here. They actually wrestle control of the topside river on that back. You can see right now, only Rogue has a sweeper, so that's going to be quite difficult to regain control of, although 3 people have picked up a lot of pink wards, and here they go. Sweeping in a trio. It's always important to go with your support, because he needs to keep moving, and you need to be smacking the wards as he's kind of moving through here.
Support, vision denial is so important now, and you don't get that many windows now that they've changed Sightstone and stuff. And so it's so important that the support doesn't waste time auto-attacking wards. You just want him to get the max amount of value out of it with his Mobies, just sprint around the pit, everyone else take the ward gold, and really, maximize the efficiency of that sweeper.
Absolutely. You see right now, Legacy with Tally bottom lane, still going to fight for this Vision. Very nice to see. I love Vision wars, especially in Oz, because we've in the past done it very poorly, as Spooks actually just launches himself into a team. We'll get slowed down.
Yep. Orn has to go back to the side wave now. He was sacking the wave in order to get some Baron control, but the wave's about to crash, so that means he has to leave. So as that happens, we can see Order immediately flood into the Baron area, start throwing down their pinks. They know that if it's 4v4, that there's no way Legacy can contest this Vision, so...
Because he is the danger man right now. Orn, at this stage of the game, is uncontested as far as tanks go. Even though there's a couple of, this is a cheeky play. They have snuck into the pit. That ward hasn't seen them, and maybe giving Legacy a bit of a false sense of security. Now they ping it out. Can Rogue keep them away? FBI actually leaves Baron. We'll re-tag it up, but Spooks goes very low. This is where Warmogs is a stupid item.
Agree. Is this the nerfed one as well? Or is this, what patch are we on?
We're 8.4.
Okay, so it's not the nerfed one, because they nerfed one on 8.5. But I agree, Warmogs is, especially for competitive, just anything that allows you to that minimizes the punish for mistakes. Like a Baron start like that where they sort of chicken out and they lose, Spooks loses 3/4 of his health. He shouldn't be able to just get away scot-free. Like, you should lose something for that.
Rogue actually going to have to burn the ultimate. Burns a flash as well. Good flash out of Raid. Awesome ulti on the back end as well. However, Decoy gets slapped against the ward. Mimic is heading over, and FBI, as you said, took a lot of damage. Already burns a flash, now being completely isolated from this play. Where is the damage going to come from? Swiffer picks up a kill, as well as the support. You can see that right now Raid is stuck between absolutely everyone from Order, and will get ripped apart. It is just Mimic and Sybil left alive. You can see FBI fell down. However, the tanks just cannot do enough work. Mimic gets a big 2-man knock-up. He's still trying to carry this team fight solo, but the layering of CC is just going to be absolutely unrelenting, and eventually Order will get the ace.
That's another good team fight from Legacy, to be honest. I mean, it sounds kind of dumb because they just got rinsed. And of course, I'm a bit biased. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that Order, these engages aren't actually that good. They're not that crisp.
That's a gold lead team fight as opposed to a well-executed one.
That is a gold lead team fight. The backline is just not doing any damage. And the worry here for Legacy is that they're still trading 4 for 2. As soon as Order gets this engage right, I mean, look how far away the team is from Rogue. Again, Galio ult hits no one. Decoy gets a shield up, manages to flash out here. FBI gets rooted, takes a lot of damage from Corki. Tally comes up huge with the flash Gnar. Mimic solos out FBR in the back end there. But I mean, if this gold lead wasn't 6k, it would look a lot worse for Order.
Yeah, absolutely. If Raid had a little bit more defensive stats versus magic damage there,
yep.
You know, we've talked about it, but the Wit's End or something completed, maybe, you know, if he didn't have, actually he had both Summoner Spells there. I was going to say if he had Summoner Spells from the last engage, he still had them. But in the end, ultimately, it is going to be a 5-for-2 play. Order don't get all that much out of it, just tanks left alive.
Yep.
They'll look to repeat it one more time. No teleports used, so the map's still kind of similar.
No. Legacy, they're sort of worried about the Baron. They don't have vision. They're coming to stack, hoping that someone will face check. But unfortunately, lads, that's not going to work. So they're going to have to pick up the waves here. Tally starts soloing the Dragon. And I think, hang on. What do you reckon of Spooks' build?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a misclick right
That's a bit
there.
how you going, isn't it?
I think he wants one of them to be a Locket as well, so it actually might be a Soul Spectre's cow, because I don't think he's going to go Adaptive Helm Spirit Visage.
I mean, what does he need armor for?
What does he need, armor? I don't think he needs armor. I just think he needs the shield from Locket if you're going to have 4,000 health.
Actually, that's true. That is true. Locket is so good with Warmogs. You're right. But yeah, I think I think the thing for Order here is they just need to hit that fat engage.
Yep.
Like they just need to be on the same page and just say, okay, boys, like what is the plan here? Are we trying to finish Baron? Are we trying to engage? Like as soon as this Galio ult hits, there's no summoners now on the side of the Legacy carries. So I think one of these guys with Flash, probably Spooks.
Yep.
If he can just get in there with a Galio ult, I think that this next team fight could really break the game open.
Yeah, and they're being unrelenting with this Baron buff. Time and time again, they're just saying, we're strong now, come face check us. If you do, we will team fight you. If you don't, we're going to take Baron. They actually go for the engage one more time. Raid this time without Summoner Spells. Going to get knocked up, going to get slapped back, and going to get taken down. Order now with a double kill for Swiffer. We'll just go back towards the Baron and rinse and repeat.
And that's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, actually, Sybil goes in, and Spooks has already gone back towards a pit. That will be absolutely no CC. Claire just fell forward, however, and now has to disengage from the fight. Poor old Mimic has just been left to the wolves, metaphorically, of course. And Claire now, without Valk, without Summoners, goes back in, and that's going to be a 4-for-0.
Yep, and that's what I was talking about. As soon as they get that engage right, this game is just going to break open. That time, yeah, Ray just a little bit too far forwards. Zibol's trying to make a hero play. 1v1 versus the Gnar.
Oh, that's a little bit of an angry fist onto the ground. Hate to see it. However, Sybil, he's going to have to run a long way, and he's not going to be able to make it. Even gets Ignite. As it feels bad, man.
That's some PP farming. But yeah, that's what I was talking about. As soon as they get that engage right, this game just breaks wide open. The carry's just too far behind, and Legacy in a really tough spot now.
Yeah, certainly are. If we check in with the items, that's going to be 3 completed items for FBI in the Blade of the Roaring King, Trinity Force, Mirror Mana. You can see Swift, he actually gets a QSS, but just for good measure. Yeah. Swiffer's build, he's got a death cap.
Well, I mean, I was saying before about, you know, oh, Wit's End is so good, they have lots of magic damage, but they're all sort of tanky. I mean, when you build decap, Zhonya's, you've got 10 stacks on your ring, like, actually you do a fair bit of damage.
Yep.
And Raid not opting into the Wit's End, going for the Bork instead. I might have a word to him.
I think if he had his time again, he would like to change that item build a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, Order, this comp, just so good from in front. If you can find the picks like that, a comp like this is just so difficult to deal with.
And it just seems to be an Order comp. You know, it's got so many tools at going forward.
Yep.
We've seen it time and time again. They just set up an objective and they just are unrelenting in attacking you. And Legacy played it well, to be honest. They got a couple of okay team fights, but eventually, without Summoner Spells, Order just forced the error, and they have more tools at that going forward kind of play.
I mean, I have to disagree, to be honest. I don't think Legacy played it well at all. I think they were very lucky, as Claire almost just gets queued to death.
However, this is now a 4v2. You see Sybil heading over. FBI already had to burn the flash. However, Galio ultimate onto the backline will continue the knock-up. In flashes Tally, 3-man Gnar, 2-man stun, and Raid is just getting burnt down. Will look to survive. Nope, he gets picked up as well. That's going to be another 3 members down now with a Baroned up cannon minion. And, of course, that's going to be a banner of command as well. That just might be game.
That'll be all she wrote, I think. Another huge team fight. I think Legacy's sort of thinking, well, might as well try something. Unfortunately, the Corki is 1 bar of health before Orn gets his ultimate off. So, pretty clean game in the end, I think. Yeah. Following on from my point earlier, I mean, I don't think Legacy really played well at all. They never really looked like they were in it. Yes, they had the scaling comp, and I think about 15 minutes into the game, it was sort of like, you know, this is the position they want to be in. But, yeah, ultimately, you can't just farm and die for 30 minutes and hope to win.
And ultimately, that will lead to the Order victory for game number 1. Spooks, the man on your screen, had a very good performance. Tally on Nah, potentially something that Legacy can look towards as they banned away a lot of Mimic's champion pool that game order. And this just seems to be the continued trend. Is that Claire is good, but however has kind of mid lane has got a broad champion pool at the moment. So let's attack the very carry-heavy champions for Mimic and put him on a tank and hope that his carries cannot operate as well as they need to.
I mean, there's sort of two schools of thought, I think, on drafting around against star players, and it's sort of a question of okay, so X player is extremely good, and we can target him with bans, or because the risk you run with that is you only have so many bans. You get 5 bans max nowadays, plus you get to pick away a champion. So potentially 6 champs you can take away. But for a player like Claire or Swiffer or really any of these good mid laners, the mid champ pool is so deep that really you pinch the 6 champs, it's not going to do that much.
We saw it with Triple actually. Order pinched like 5 champions versus Triple. He picked up Vladimir and arguably hard carried the game better than he would have on any of the champions that were banned.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And so oftentimes with the other school of thought, and this is sort of the one that I prescribe to, is that you're much better off just target banning probably the weakest player or a role where there aren't so many champions. Because if you throw 6 bans at, I mean, like...
jungle pool at the moment for Juves.
like Juves, for example. They forced him onto the Kindred. Kindred is a horrible champion, quite frankly.
And that's coming from a guy that played a lot of Kindred when it was in the OPL.
And Kindred's just not in a really good spot right now. And it's like, well, you know, they could have thrown those bans at maybe Praedith or someone who has a carry potential on that team. But instead it was like, okay, well, instead let's pinch the jungle pool because jungle doesn't have a massive pool right now.
Yep, exactly right. And that was the case in this game. Top lane, take away the carries, pick up the first win, business as usual for Order. However, to break that game down further, let's throw it over to Laura and Sharp.
Thank you very much, guys. Sharp and I are here to talk about some elements of that game. And I want to start by talking about a pick that hopefully Legacy will ban out next game, and that is Swiffer's Galio, because he made a huge impact on this game.
Yeah, so I think Galio just right now is quite broken. Like across the world, like I don't know, LCK it's like nearly permabanned.
Yeah.
For the reason that it really limits your options when you're versing it. Like you can see Legacy tried to make plays bot side, and every single time Galio just leaned a little bit down, and then we're like, oh, okay, there blows. We just blew our Sejuani ult, and now we can't commit. And so I think that Order really abused that Galio ult, and just the pressure that it exerted on the map really well.
Jake and Carbon were talking about during the pregame about the matchup between Tally and Mimic. And I don't know how I feel about Mimic on this Ornn. I mean, he's played Ornn in the past, but he's never had any standout games. They've all been pretty okay. But is this a good pick for him, or what are your thoughts on him on Ornn at the moment?
Well, I mean, I think Ornn's actually not in the best spot at the moment. So he had a bit of recently he got nerfed a bit. I think that he dropped down in priority a little bit with the rise of tanks such as Sion and even a little bit of Poppy we've seen. So I think that now that like the obviously the hit to Ornn really lowered his priority. And so what doesn't really make sense to me is that there's all this hype around Mimic. Everyone's saying he's like this Korean top laner. And they're just dropping him to second phase when they had the opportunity to pick Sion, more of a lane-dominant tank, and really start exerting some of that pressure through topside. So I think it's a little bit, I don't know if this is uncharacteristic. They've done this quite a few times, Legacy. It's just a little bit confusing to me, given what we've heard and everyone's heard about Mimic. So what I would want to see is Legacy switch it up a bit. Maybe get Mimic one of those stronger picks, like we've seen him on Fiora a little bit now, but maybe try and get him one of those stronger picks in the first rotation, even if it's a stronger tank, like with the likes of Sion.
Well, he did have a good game on Sion recently, but something you pointed out when we were watching the game is that Legacy were just making small mistakes throughout that game that Order were just able to punish quite easily, such as them blowing ults all the time and not being resourceful with them.
Yeah, because I feel as though the difference between a lot of like the top tier teams and the bottom tier teams is just the ability to minimize the amount of mistakes made, like both mechanically and I guess macro wise. And I think this game there was way too many Sejuani ults just used in a non-committal way. So Sejuani blowing the ult for a skirmish in that bot river 3v3, a bot tri-bush 3v3, not fully committing to the play or unable to execute to get the kills. And I think they're a very ultimate based team. They have the Ornn ult, which are being used for wave clear sometimes when they use Rift Herald top, and just these Sejuani ults coming out of nowhere with no commitment coming out with the AD carrying support, and with Galio obviously being a large factor there, kind of limiting their options. But those really hurt a team, and you know eventually Order just eventually just capitalize on those small mechanical mistakes, and then they just got really punished for it.
When we take a look at Legacy last year, they were playing mainly around their bot lane, Lost and Cupcake, but now that Lost has departed us for the great land of NA, and Cupcake is now on the Direwolves, they're now playing around Claire. But I wanted to ask you, as a coach, how do you identify your team's advantages, and then how do you play around them in a game?
Well, generally what you want to be doing is focusing more on, I guess, the champions, what obvious strength champions have. But given that outside of the game, people have differing levels of skill, both mentality and I guess the way they can adapt to certain metas. So some players are more well-versed in, I guess, carry-oriented metas, like we can see right now. It's more of a tank-oriented meta. So people like, I guess, Swiper will be loving it right now. But it's quite obvious that, Chippy's and Direwolves, right? He doesn't play that too many tanks or hasn't been known to be a tank player. So right there, what you would want to be doing as a coach is identifying what the meta is and identifying what the strongest picks are in the given meta, and then figuring out, okay, given my players' strengths and their weaknesses, how can I figure out the best composition and figure out how we can maximize our chances of winning through that, both given the meta and where your level of skill is as a player. How
do you think teams are competing this time this year compared to this time last year? Do you think that the level of Oceania as a region has improved, and these investments such as the SCG for the Direwolves and the hangar for the Bombers have been helping?
Yeah, so I think all across the board, to be honest, there's been a lot more consistent gameplay coming across. So I wouldn't say that there's, like last year, obviously everyone's making mistakes in terms of no one's playing perfectly. But what I'm seeing compared to last year is a lot more consistency in the mistakes, which sounds a bit weird to say, but consistency in mistakes is a good thing and consistency in strengths as well. So we can see that a lot of teams have consistent strengths and consistent weaknesses, which I guess comes a lot from the infrastructure that we're seeing, both not just Direwolves, but a lot of these teams having a lot more emphasis on support staff and I guess the pillars and the infrastructure behind that. So I think that the consistency element is a lot better this year than it was last year.
Well, it's great seeing all of these teams investing in all of this support. We're going to head to a short break though, but when we get back, we're going to see if Legacy can make a comeback in game number 2. Don't miss it.
Spooks is going to leap in. Raid has to burn his flash. Spooks slashes after him, gets first blood.
Legacy,
FBI again goes forward. This time gets ulti. Going to pop Rogue's ult as well. Teleport's coming in. That will be matched right now by Mimic. Headbutt pole. Spooks actually going to jump into the play right now, and that is everyone from Order down in this bottom lane. Decoy will fall to Tally. Good flash out of Raid. Awesome ulti on the back end as well. However, Decoy gets slapped against the ward. Mimic is heading over, and FBI, as you said, took a lot of damage. Already burns the flash, now being completely isolated from this play. Where is the damage going to come from? Swiffer picks up a kill as well as the support. You can see that right now Raid is stuck between absolutely everyone from Order and will get ripped apart. And eventually Order will get the ace. Raid this time without summoner spells, gonna get knocked up, gonna get slapped back, and gonna get taken down. Order now with a double kill for Swiffer. In flashes Tally, 3-man nah, 2-man stun, and Raid is just getting burnt down. Will look to survive. Nope, he gets picked up as well. That's gonna be another 3 members down now with a Baron of Cannon minion. And of course, that's gonna be a Banner of Command as well. That just might be game.
This is Kaisa, daughter of the Void. To survive among predators, Kaisa became one. The Daughter of the Void hunts with a symbiotic second skin, adapted from a living void creature.
Are you the hunter or the prey?
Welcome to the Kaisa Champion Spotlight.
Look closely, and your prey will show you how to kill it.
Kaisa has 2 passives. The first is Caustic Wounds. Kaisa's basic attacks mark enemies with plasma, dealing increasing bonus damage per stack. After enough stacks, the plasma ruptures for a burst of damage based on the target's missing health. Nearby allies can donate plasma by immobilizing enemies with crowd control, but cannot rupture the plasma. Kaisa's second passive is Living Weapon. Her symbiotic skin evolves her abilities based on permanent stats gained from items and champion levels. We'll come back to these evolutions with each ability. Kaisa's Q is Acathian Rain, which releases a swarm of missiles evenly distributed among nearby enemies. Additional hits on the same champion or monster deal reduced damage. Low health minions take extra damage. If you catch an enemy up close and alone, they'll be pummeled with every shot for some unavoidable damage. Minions and other enemies will split the salvo, so remember to isolate your prey before making it Acathian Rain. With enough bonus attack damage, Icathian Rain evolves to fire significantly more missiles, dealing more damage. Kai'Sa's W, Void Seeker, fires off a beam of void energy that damages, reveals, and applies plasma to the first enemy hit. With enough ability power, Void Seeker evolves to deal more damage, apply additional plasma, and partially refund the cooldown on champion hit. Put enemies on blast with a nasty poke, or play hide and seeker with a fleeing enemy. Kai'Sa's E is Supercharger. First, Kai'Sa charges up, briefly increasing her movement speed, but losing the ability to attack. After charging up, Kai'Sa whips out the big guns to increase her attack speed for a few seconds. Every basic attack reduces Supercharger's cooldown. Additionally, bonus attack speed will reduce the charge-up time and increase the movement speed gain. With enough bonus attack speed, Supercharger evolves to grant invisibility during the charge-up. Your enemies hunting you will be in vain. The first half of Supercharger can be used to create distance from a threat, and you can use the second half to turn and burn. Kai'Sa's ultimate is Killer Instinct.
Too late to run.
Kai'Sa dashes at extremely high speed to a location near an enemy champion marked with plasma, then briefly gains a shield. While Kai'Sa moves insanely fast during her ultimate, it is technically a dash. Eagle-eyed opponents can interrupt you, unlike other champions from the Void with high mobility ultimates. Huh. Kai'Sa can use her ult to pick off a wandering enemy. Combo with a teammate to dive a carry hiding in the backline. Or reposition in the blink of an eye. Killer Instinct is exceptionally versatile and has a long range, but it is a huge commitment. Don't be rash with it. Once you're in deep, you better be able to fight your way out. Kai'Sa's abilities and evolutions give her multiple ways to approach a team fight.
My skin is crawling. Time to hunt.
One method is to rely on Supercharger, pinging their front line for constant cooldown refreshment and using Killer Instinct to dodge crowd control or kite divers. Just make sure you don't abandon your team to 1v5. That's 10 points in Void Spotting. Alternatively, you can lurk on the outskirts, waiting for a well-aimed Void Seeker or some friendly crowd control to dive in and pop a squishy. Stay alert for opportunities to follow up on an ally's engage and land that final stack of plasma for the kill. After all, KS stands for Kai'Sa.
You talk too much.
Thanks for watching the Kai'Sa Champion Spotlight. Follow your Killer Instinct to dive deep and learn more about the Daughter of the Void.
Hello and welcome back to the OPL. It's Week 8, Day